like to talk about mentoring. And I want to talk about it because it means a lot to me, and I think it's something that we're all called to do in one way or another. How many of you are either involved in or have been influenced as a protege or a mentor? Quite a few of you. So this is going to be sort of like a review or maybe a rallying cry for all of us to continue to do this. I'm fortunate to be able to, in my career, play a component of mentoring which I think is really important in sort of helping people to get where they're going. This concept of reaching potential, reaching your God-given potential, has been really important for me. When I was growing up early on, my folks would say, you can do anything you want to do. And I took that to mean that anything that was out there I could be successful in. Found out relatively early on that that wasn't true. There was a key part of that I want to do, and that's kind of who you are. So discovering those things that you're interested in, that you're successful in, and you get that kind of feedback loop, I think, when you're doing things that you're good at and people are responding to that, that helps you to be successful. But there's been several points in my career where people have maybe noticed me not being successful and taken the time and opportunity to pull me aside. Sometimes it was their direction, but many times it was me seeking them out and just getting their input. And through relationship, we're making some significant strides. So from early on, that has helped me a lot. So I just want to talk a little bit about some concepts that I've seen that work for me. Talk about what mentoring is and isn't. Give us some practical ideas about how to, for all of us to get involved in it, and then have some questions. So talked about this God-given potential, connecting with who you are and then being able to leverage that in the best way possible. A couple of things. I was talking with Pete before this got started. Where is the protege going? So, protege, this is not taking somebody who's, unwilling to go anywhere. This is based on somebody who wants to go somewhere in life. They might be stumbling, they might be, wayward, but they're moving in a direction. So where is that protege going? And the mentor is, where have they been and how can they easily help through a relationship? Very simple kind of a thing, and we all do it more than we think we do. It's just taking the time to be intentional about it and taking the time to stop for a second in those relationships that we have and think, how could I help? It's also, let me give a little bit of a story. I had, several years ago, probably 8 or 9 years ago, realized that in our church we didn't have any kind of a mentoring program, and I thought, because I kind of like to organize things, I called up and said, what do we have in terms of mentoring, and I thought I could get involved in it, and in a good way, they said, well, what do you want to do? Here's what it would take to get something rolling, and before I knew it, I was kind of trying to dig into what it would take to start something. And that took several months to figure it out, and we had a couple of stops and starts. One of the things that we thought we'd be able to do would be to sort of programmatically put people over here who had value and people over here who were seeking value, and you could match them up, kind of like the dating game, and that didn't work at all. People didn't want to do it, and it wouldn't have been effective in the first place. I mean, no one says, I've got a hole, or I'm God's gift to mentoring. It's really more relationships. Having conversations with, building relationships with people, and the relationship is only going to work if you're spending time with someone that you like, that you enjoy, that you believe in, and that you want to see succeed. That's it. And there's a lot of people that you probably know that you're gravitating towards in relationship. It might just be a friend at this point, but in any kind of a friendship, there's a give and take. And mentoring is not necessarily, this guy, and this person, this woman, and this younger woman. It can be peers, or it can go the other direction where the younger person is providing some kind of input to the other person. It's having a mindset around providing value. And sometimes it's seeking value out, which is a really admirable quality. If people come into our office that are open and seeking, asking questions, it's one of the key differentiators in our business of being good at consulting is, are they asking good questions and seeking things out? I mean, that's a learner. And one of the things I love about, when I'm involved in both sides of the mentoring relationship is getting to learn and getting to provide value. So this brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction, very practical. I can't tell you how many times there's, in fact, one of the guys that I consider a mentor of sorts, and we kind of go back and forth in that continuum, but he invited me to get connected with Roger because he had spoken at one of these meetings before. So I appreciate that. Bruce Kerr, I don't know if any of you guys know him. I know Alan. Alan, do you know Bruce? So we're in a small prayer group, and he just thought this would be a good opportunity for me to share something that's on my heart. So here we are. So some misconceptions. Mentors are perfect. Many times we don't get started with something. I grew up being influenced by someone in our household, we're not going to point fingers, but who's a perfectionist, which kind of promotes this procrastination mindset because anything you do may never be good enough. But nobody's perfect. It's just a matter of getting started. And don't wait until you feel like you're there, because that'll never happen. They're not 83 years old, although they can be. I just had breakfast with my dad a couple days ago up in Seattle. He's 88 years old. Didn't expect that to happen. Should have, but didn't. So my dad's 88. My mom passed away 10 years ago. So I met with him for breakfast on Tuesday. He was having lunch with another person that was 16 years his junior at Boeing, and that he was sort of a mentor to. At 3 o'clock that day, he was teaching a Bible class at his retirement center. At 6 o'clock, he was teaching another class at the church that he attends. He was thrilled. So, your age is a component, because the older you are, hopefully the more you learn. But that's an example that I want to be able to have in my life, is at whatever spot I'm in, to be putting value out. We already talked about this. We don't have all the answers, and my dad certainly doesn't. I don't. But sometimes it's just a matter of knowing questions that people will come to me or me to somewhere else, and the question is, where do I turn for this? And all they can just help push you, like that, push in the right direction. Go connect with this person. This person's really good. I used to think that a mentor was sort of like the one person that you could always go to for all the answers. We'll talk about this in a second, but you should be seeking out people in your life that can provide input in all kinds of areas, and not just one person. I think that's kind of dangerous. If you have the one person that you're trusting to give you all the input, we need perspective. How are we doing on time? I need to hurry up, so I'm going to. It's not a checklist. It's a relationship. It's not a directive where you're coaching or you're directing and you're trying to turn this person into somebody else. It's based on the Protégé's agenda, helping them to get where they want. This concept of what mentoring isn't, pretty self-explanatory. A couple of things that are important. In modeling, I think that people can experience a lot of professional, personal, spiritual growth by being around people that are exhibiting the characteristics that they're seeking. That was 34 years ago. I remember just being struck by someone that I saw in a lobby of this situation he was a young father. I was probably 18, 20 years old. Young father, kids, wife. I could tell good marriage, kids, was an influencer in his community, and it spurred me on just by being around that person to say, I want to be like that. So if you're around people that you see, I want to be like that, there's something, I can guarantee you if you go to that person and say, I'd just like to have a cup of coffee with you. There's some things that I've noticed about you or your life that I admire, and I'd like to ask you some questions. You know, it might take them a while to get on their calendar, but they'll make that happen. It's the easiest thing to start that you can imagine. So this concept of having multiple mentors on the second page here frees you up from trying to find the perfect mentor or be the perfect mentor. Everybody has experiences from which they've learned and that they can then turn and be of value to somebody else. It's impossible not to be in a situation like that. You do have to be a little bit intentional about it and to not be introspective in a wrong way, but to maybe just to evaluate your assets and see how can I help. This couple of questions here that a mentor asks around what are your priorities and how can I help? We touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's based on somebody having priorities. Now you can get somebody started pretty quickly in that area. They might not call it a priority. What are your goals? What are you seeking? Where are you going? I have a good friend here in town who is mentoring the son of another couple of friends of ours. And there was a connection around running initially. The young high school kid at the time was a good runner. This friend of ours had been an athlete and is connected in the athletic world. And it was obvious that this boy wanted to run in college. And his mentor was able to connect him up significantly with mentors of a variety of different sorts, academic and athletic, and got him into a situation through not a lot of work on his part, just because of who he was, but took this guy and was able to get him an athletic scholarship through just putting a little bit of time and effort into this young man's life. The young man was exhibiting, he was working really hard, might have been a little bit unfocused, bringing a little bit of focus into it, was able to really, really help him along. It was very admirable. This next little topic of a mentor leadership, knowing what's important, why it's important, and how to bring resources to bear on it. Every experience we go through allows us to kind of go back into and look at the salient points of that experience, figure out what happened there, bring perspective to somebody else who hasn't been there. Really valuable. We had a guy in our office a couple of weeks ago who was trying to get a consulting organization started, and he'd spent a year doing some things that were not getting him very far. It wasn't by intent. It wasn't he was operating out of integrity. It was just he wasn't focusing his time in the right spot. And I just able to look at his background and what he was able to do, knowing how clients engage consulting organizations, was able to just kind of direct them and say, here's, you need to connect with these partners, provide them value, lock arms together, and go out and into the market. won't go into all the details, but he said, you know, if I'd come here a year ago, I would have saved a year in just a few minutes of conversation with him. And it was just, you know, we get to do that kind of thing all the time with our clients as well. It's, you know, I know we're probably involved in 30 or 40 projects at a time of one type or another and cycle through them quickly multiple times in a year. And we get this collective information and knowledge and wisdom, and being able to provide that to our clients. If we didn't do it, it would be a lack of integrity. And everybody has that same kind of perspective. You know, you've been given something and you have an obligation to be able to give it back. Now, it gives great pleasure to be able to do that, to help somebody overcome, you know, obstacles. The power of a mentor. I had probably 15, 20 years ago, I had a manager, he was our COO, that I saw him as being someone from a business perspective that I wanted to learn from. He'd been very successful. He was operating as a consultant to our company at the time. And so I asked him out to breakfast and had conversations with him, and I'd bring a book with me that's, you know, it was on mentoring and trying to give him some subtle hints about, you know, would he give me some time? And so I think I still have it. We were over at breakfast, he took this little placemat and he started drawing pictures on it and writing little things out on it that it was like I wouldn't call it an MBA course on mentoring, but it was just really impactful for me. And he came in, you know, because he knew that I wanted to go somewhere, it was easy for him to direct me. And he also, you know, he saw some things in my life at the time that needed some correction. He wasn't the guy to do it, but he knew someone else who could help out. So he directed me to this person, and it was a very significant impact on my life because he cared enough to put the time in. On the other side of the equation, I've got a friend of mine here in town that had been owned his own business for quite a while, and had partners, though, that weren't going in the right direction. And just from a professional perspective, he wanted to get out of the food business, and I was able to get him connected with some people in more the technical services world, and knowing his character and his skills, he was able to change his career. It was something of value that I had that I was able to just give, you know, to him, and it made an impact. Again, we all have that, to be able to help somebody get connected with a value based on their priorities. This is not me. I didn't look into this person's life and say, hey, I want to redirect it. It was someone that was going somewhere that wanted to make some change and move along, that I was just able to help with. So some other practical ways that I would got listed here that you could take with you if you have a mentoring relationship now, or you'd like to build one. You don't want to know where to start. This list of 3 upcoming decisions, problems, plans, progress points, roadblocks, all those things are just topics of conversation. Need to be built on relationships, though. You know, in this little phrase that unless you're willing to invest in somebody's life, you don't have any right to be really speaking into it. Now, sometimes you don't get to invest a lot into it, but that should be your intent. The modeling piece of it, you know, I know with my children, it's harder for me to give them instruction about something, whether it be starting the lawnmower or changing a light bulb, or, you know, if I were to sit there and write it out for them, it would be very frustrating. If I get them to, you know, to be alongside me and do it along with me, they learn much quicker, and it's much easier for me. So that might be the real reason, is it's easier for me. So it's seeking out a relationship. Just top of the next page there. Just the idea of thinking about who are the people in the universe that I would like to have a mentor is very useful. especially for certain kinds of people that may not have a goal. Everybody, thinks about someone that they would admire. Just doing that helps people set direction and gives you, it's sort of in a, opening up your radar to maybe who else, even if you're saying, okay, well, I want it to be Barack Obama, or you want it to be George W. Bush, or whatever. Thinking about that person and just helps to push you. And you'll connect with somebody else, though, that can have that kind of an impact on your life. Conversely, if you take the time to look around to people that are around you that you enjoy their company, that you might have some synergies around family or spirituality, you might go to your church, you might work with them, that you could help, just take the time to say, hey, you want to go out and have a cup of coffee or lunch or whatever it is. And you'll both know pretty quickly if there were some synergies there, some connection. If there isn't, you didn't say, oh, we failed as being a mentor-protege, because you don't go into those things from that perspective. That puts way too much pressure on it. Let's just see what happens. Interestingly, I've seen this in a number of different books and publications, that just the time that we spent this morning talking about mentoring positions you to be ahead of 97% of the people of the world on the subject of mentoring. It's just not something that's a topic. So, we now have the opportunity to take what we've been thinking about today and leverage it a bit. Here's another concept here, this your reading library. Now, if you're not a reader, it doesn't apply as much. I love to read. Not to the point where I hole up in my library and don't come out, but I like to learn. And whatever I happen to be passionate about at that point, I'd like to talk about. Bring books, a copy of books to a meeting and say, I just read this book, everybody needs to read it. And they might not be as interested in it, but at least I tried. So if there's somebody that you're trying to, or you're in a relationship with, and they said, I really want to learn about software engineering, and I'm in college and trying to get my feet on the ground. A software engineer may have several textbooks, or it could be all kinds of things that you could quickly say, these are the 5 to 10 books that really helped me in my career. Here's why they're important. And then have that be the focus of your meetings. Let's get together again in a month and talk about it. Maybe a week. There's no set timing. You might want to say it's every Friday morning. You might want to say it's once a quarter. All of which is completely appropriate. It may be something that you went through early on in your career when your kids were young, as you read several books. Now, those kind of conversations, my wife is mentor to several women in the neighborhood. We're a little older than a lot of the parents in our neighborhood. We're a little older than a lot of people. But she can provide value to those young mothers because she's gone through it before. And she, every once in a while she'll recommend a book for them to read, but more often it's practical stories. So I've listed a couple of books here that I really enjoyed at the end that you might want to pick up if you're interested in the topic of mentoring itself. With that, we are right at about the point where we need to segue into questions. Anybody have any questions or comments or input, stories they want to share about mentoring? Yes. Okay, so the question is, if you know somebody in your circle of influence that you think that you could help and you want to help, how do you get the relationship started without being sort of over the top, like you need some help? We mentioned a couple times, just say, figure out a way you're asking me to figure it out. Ask them out for a cup of coffee. Or if you know what their interests are, it could be, do you want to go for a walk? Whatever you think would resonate with them. No other pressure than that. Have a conversation with them. They may just in the course of conversation come out with, hey, I'm struggling with this component. But I would just kind of go into it sort of prayerfully, if you will, seeking an opportunity to converse with that person. And let the conversation go. If there's a point where you feel like you could provide input in that conversation, do it very gently. Because many times the person who may be struggling, the biggest thing is that they don't know it yet. Sometimes they do. This mentor that I mentioned, that I used to work with, he said it's very hard to do surgery on yourself or even to be aware that you're sick sometimes. So connecting with somebody else who can help you with that. I mean, my doctors have told me to do certain things that I've ignored. Certain doctors are better at giving me the information than others. And, that's the purpose. It's not to give information, but to be impactful on that person's life. So just spend time with them. See what happens. You may spend time with them and realize, I'm not the person to do this, but I know somebody else who would be better at connecting with that person. The goal is to help that person, not necessarily. It doesn't have to be you. Anybody else? There was another. Yes, sir. The question is, we found out that the dating game approach didn't work. What did work? The relationship, number one, it was the discussion around what mentoring is and isn't. So it got people's mindset, or their eyes opened to it, and then just made sure that people connected via different, events or whatever it was. And those people that were interested in being a mentor or had something to share, they would connect. That's all it is. So it's much less, it is not a program. So just be a mentoring proponent to people. Get them interested and excited about the value that can be gained and or given, and it'll happen. Just, leadership is influence. You can't manage this kind of a thing. You influence it through being excited about it and talking about it and being a mentor, being a protege. Yes, sir.
I found it's always helpful to put parameters around the expectations around the mentorship. So if somebody's coming to me, I want to know, what do they really expect of me of a mentor? How often are we going to meet? What kinds of things do you want to walk away from with me? And if I'm asking someone, I want to be very precise about what I'm asking from them as well, so they know what time commitment they're in for, what it is that I'm really seeking from them. So clarity around those things I found really helpful in mentoring relationships.
Very good, especially for certain kinds of people. Certain kinds of people are very task and objective oriented. You want to give them something very specific, like, what am I here for? Are we going to get something done here? Other people who are more relational are going to want to, this isn't about that. It's just about being in relationship, and mentoring happens. Now, not to say that that's not extremely important. It would be for me, because I like to, my wife comes to me a problem, I want to solve it. She may want to just have a conversation about it and by osmosis have something, So it's just different personalities. And that's part of, I think, what makes good mentoring happen is connecting with people who have the same mindset around what that is. You might connect with, for instance, you might think that person you could really help. You might connect with them, and your approach to it, she would or he would completely resonate with it. On the other hand, your approach to it might, not be something that they would be willing to go with. So be sensitive to that. It's driven from someone you like, you enjoy, want to succeed. All those kind of concepts are important. Anybody else? So the question is, how important is it that you define the relationship as a mentor-protege? Is that essentially? The goal is progress for the protege and shared value from the mentor's perspective. What you call it, I don't know if that's important. It could be if you get to the point where the protege is unwilling to hear really good advice, that you might want to try that to give them some weight to what you're saying. But I don't think that's either that person wants to change or go in a direction or take your input, or they don't. And what you call it is not that important. It may lend some context to it, like the gentleman in the back was saying about what are we going to get accomplished, and that's really helpful. Some people might be offended by it. They might not be at a point in their growth where it's like, I don't think I need a protege. I mean, I'm not a protege. That might impede their growth. I don't know. So I wish I had a right answer to that one. Yes. How do you direct somebody to someone who can help them if you don't know? This is part of what I'd like to do is connect with a lot of people, find out, what their value is so that I can help direct people to them when it's appropriate. This is a journey for them, and you want to, help them along with that. You want to remove obstacles as you can, but again, it's helping that protege get where they want to go. Did that help? Or her comment is, it's interesting to see who people seek out to be their mentors, and it works, better if those things organically happen. But it's very important to be careful or to be aware of the impact you can have on somebody that you're mentoring. What I thought of, and I think, and again, it's around this having multiple mentors. You can tell 3 people the exact same piece of information, and they will take it 3 different ways. I can't tell you, you can say, this is my experience, and they will have their own agenda, and they'll take it and say, well, Jeff said that this would be okay. And I've said, I did not say that. So being very careful of trying to over-communicate and trying to connect people with other mentors that can give them maybe that information in a different way. Yes. First question was, do you see most successful relationships being of the same gender? I've seen that over long periods of time, especially. It should be that way. But you can have a mentoring relationship that's a little bit more informal, that's male-female, of course. I just think there's other dynamics that come into play if that goes on. If it's a larger, I would just say it's easier. I'll just say that. Conversely, from her perspective, there seems to be less women mentors out there because there's maybe less people in her field or interest in business. So how do you connect with them? I think making it an emphasis is the biggest thing. And asking around, who do you know that's successful woman in business? And it will come about. And then, I think every person is going to have particular issues that they're going to want to help with. Your particular one narrows the group of people. I think there's not a big field of mentors that are out there for anyone, just because of who we are. I'm going to connect with only a few people, and only a few people could connect with me, ideally. Doesn't mean you can't exchange value, but that real connection over a long period of time. So number one, be a learner. Seek out people, ask questions. This is a pastor he's not there anymore, but an old pastor said, he said, I can go into a 4th grade Sunday school class and get my socks blown off from what's given because I want to learn. So if you are a learner and you want to get into a situation, you can learn from whatever. I don't have what I would say, I won't say that. I have many great mentors right now. None that I would say is the perfect one for all things. So just seek out relationships. That's all I can say. Thank you again. And I'll be around afterwards if people have other questions or comments. Would love to hear your stories about mentoring as well. So thanks again.